Welcome back. Today is Genesis 29 through 30, Jacob and Rachel. We'll go through the chapters and then we'll analyze them. Let's get to it. Then Jacob took up his journey and came to the land of the sons of the east. And he looked, and behold, a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep were lying there beside it. For from that well they gave water to the flocks to drink. Now the stone on the mouth of the well was large, and all the flocks would be gathered there. And they would roll the stone from the mouth of the well and give water to the sheep to drink, and return the stone back to its place on the mouth of the well. And Jacob said to them, My brothers, where are you from? And they said, We are from Haran. Then he said to them, Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said to them, Is it well with him? And they said, It is well, and here is Rachel, his daughter, coming with the sheep. And he said, Behold, it is still high day. It is not time for the livestock to be gathered. Give water to the sheep to drink, and go, pasture them. But they said, We cannot, until all the flocks are gathered, and they roll the stone from the mouth of the well. Then we give water to the sheep to drink. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. Now it happened when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother. Jacob came near and rolled the stone from the mouth of the well and gave water to the flock of Laban, his mother's brother, to drink. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was a relative of her father and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. So it happened that when Laban heard the report of Jacob, his sister's son, and he embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Then he recounted to Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, Surely you are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with them 1 month. Then Laban said to Jacob, Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be? Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful in form and beautiful in appearance. Now Jacob loved Rachel, and he said, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter, Rachel. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to you than to give her to another man. Stay with me. So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they were in his sight but a few days because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go into her. And Laban gathered all the men of the place and made a feast. Now it happened in the evening that he took his daughter Leah and brought her to him, and Jacob went into her. Laban also gave his servant woman Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a servant woman. Now it happened in that morning that, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, What is this you have done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served with you? Why then have you deceived me? But Laban said, It is not the practice in our place to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill the week of this one, and we will give you the other also for the service which you shall serve with me for another 7 years. And Jacob did so and fulfilled the week, and he gave him his daughter Rachel as his wife. Laban also gave his servant woman Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her servant woman. So Jacob went into Rachel also, and indeed he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served with Laban for another 7 years. And the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. So Leah conceived and bore a son and named him Reuben. For she said, Because the Lord has seen my affliction, surely now my husband will love me. Then she conceived again and bore a son and said, Because the Lord has heard that I am unloved, he has therefore given me this son also. So she named him Simeon. And she conceived again and bore a son and said, Now this time my husband will be joined to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore he was named Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son and said, "This time I will praise the Lord." Therefore she named him Judah. Then she stopped bearing. Then Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children. So she became jealous of her sister, and she said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I die." Then Jacob's anger burned against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" And she said, "Here is my maidservant Bilhah. Go into her, that she may bear on my knees, that through her I too may obtain children." So she gave him her servant woman Bilhah as a wife, and Jacob went into her. And Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, "God has rendered justice to me, and has indeed listened to my voice, and has given me a son." Therefore she named him Dan. And Rachel's servant woman Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. So Rachel said, "With mighty wrestlings I have wrestled with my sister, and I have indeed prevailed." And she named him Naphtali. Then Leah saw that she had stopped bearing, so she took her servant woman Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. And Leah's servant woman Zilpah bore Jacob a son. Then Leah said, "How fortunate!" So she named him Gad. And Leah's servant woman Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. Then Leah said, "Happy am I, for women will call me happy." So she named him Asher. And in the days of the wheat harvest, Reuben went and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." But she said to her, "Is it a small matter for you to take my husband? And would you take my son's mandrakes also?" So Rachel said, "Therefore he will lie with you tonight in return for your son's mandrakes." Then Jacob came in from the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him and said, "You must come in to me, for I have surely hired you with my son's mandrakes." So he lay with her that night, and God listened to Leah. And she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. And Leah said, "God has given me my wages, because I gave my servant woman to my husband." So she named him Issachar. Then Leah conceived again and bore a sixth son to Jacob. And Leah said, "God has gifted me a good gift. This time my husband will honor me, because I have bore him 6 sons." So she named him Zebulun. And afterward she bore a daughter and named her Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. So she conceived and bore a son and said, "God has taken away my reproach." And she named him Joseph, saying, "May the Lord give me another son." Now it happened, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, "Send me away, that I may go to my own place and to my own land. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go. For you yourself know my service which I have rendered you." But Laban said to him, "If now I have found favor in your sight, stay with me. I have interpreted an omen that the Lord has blessed me on your account." And he continued to say, "Name me your wages, and I will give it." But he said to him, "You yourself know how I have served you, and how your livestock have fared with me, for you had little before I came. But it has spread out to a multitude, and the Lord has blessed you at every step of mine. But now, when shall I provide for my own household also?" So he said, "What shall I give you?" And Jacob said, "You shall not give me anything. If you will do this one thing for me, I will again pasture and keep your flock. Let me pass through your entire flock today, removing from there every speckled and spotted sheep, and every black one among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and such shall be my wages. So my righteousness will answer for me later, when you come concerning my wages. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and black among the lambs, if you found with me, will be considered stolen." And Laban said, "Behold, let it be according to your word." So he removed on that day the striped and spotted male goats, and all the speckled and spotted female goats, every one with white in it, and all the black ones among the sheep. and gave them into the care of his sons. And he put a distance of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob. And Jacob was pasturing the rest of Laban's flocks. Then Jacob took fresh rods of poplar and almond and plane trees, and he peeled white stripes in them, exposing the white which was in the rods. And he set the rods which had been peeled in front of the flocks in the trough, that is, in the watering channels where the flocks came to drink, and they mated when they came to drink. So the flocks mated by the rods, and the flocks brought forth, striped, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob separated the lambs, and he made the flocks face toward the striped and all the black in the flock of Laban. And he set his own herds apart, and did not set them with Laban's flock. Now it would be that whenever the stronger of the flock were mating, Jacob would place the rods in the sight of the flock in the trough, so that they might mate by the rods. But when the flock was feeble, he did not put them in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger were Jacob's. So the man spread out exceedingly, and had large flocks, and female and male servants, and camels and donkeys. Chapter 29. Jacob's love for Rachel and his eventual marriage to Leah presents a story where love and relationships are marked by both passion and difficulty. Jacob works for 7 years to marry Rachel, but Laban deceives him by giving him Leah instead. This results in Jacob having to work another 7 years to marry Rachel, whom he truly loves. This narrative can spark reflections on the nature of love. Philosophers like Plato and Aristotle explored love in different ways, from the ideal of true platonic love to the more practical idea of love being grounded in mutual respect and virtue. Here we see how love, desire, and commitment can become entangled with other factors like duty, deceit, and social expectations. How do we navigate love when it involves personal sacrifice, manipulation, or unexpected consequences? Laban's deception of Jacob, substituting Leah for Rachel, teaches about the consequences of dishonesty. Laban's actions lead to a complicated and painful situation for Jacob, who feels betrayed and deceived. This raises the question of ethics and the consequences of our actions. Is deception ever justifiable? Philosophers like Kant would argue that lying is inherently wrong, while others like Machiavelli might argue that deception can sometimes be used to maintain power or control. The story offers an opportunity to reflect on the ethical complexities of human behavior and the moral cost of dishonesty. Jacob's 14 years of labor for Laban demonstrates a significant theme of hard work and perseverance. Despite being deceived, Jacob continues to work diligently to achieve his goal of marrying Rachel. His persistence is a key theme in the story. This highlights the value of perseverance and the struggle to attain one's goals. The idea of virtue ethics, where hard work, patience, and persistence lead to a flourishing life, is often overlooked. Jacob's willingness to endure hardship for love suggests that enduring hardship may sometimes be part of a larger, worthwhile goal. The story raises the issue of fairness in relationships. Jacob, though deceived, eventually gets what he desires, but the situation reveals a lack of justice in how he is treated. He is given Leah under false pretenses, which highlights issues of power, fairness, and autonomy in relationships. The idea of fairness is demonstrated here. Life isn't fair, but he was patient and it worked out in the end. Justice is a central theme in many philosophical traditions. For example, Plato's Republic explores justice in terms of societal roles and fairness. Here, Jacob's treatment by Laban could prompt reflections on the nature of fairness in personal and societal relationship. What happens when power dynamics lead to unfair treatment? And how do we address injustice? Despite the challenges and emotional turmoil Jacob faces, he remains committed to his goal of being with Rachel. The story reflects resilience, the ability to endure hardship and stay focused on one's ultimate goal. Meaning is found in perseverance through adversity. Jacob's persistence shows how resilience, even in the face of betrayal, can help one remain true to one's desires and life purpose. Jacob faces significant deception from Laban, and his response is both emotional and pragmatic. He doesn't let the initial betrayal destroy his plans, but instead works through the situation by continuing to work for Laban and ultimately securing Rachel as his wife. In life, encountering betrayal or deception can be difficult, but problem solving in such situations often require maintaining composure and looking for practical solutions despite emotional setbacks. Jacob's response teaches that while emotional reactions are natural, it's important to think strategically and avoid letting negative experiences derail your ultimate goals. After being deceived, Jacob negotiates with Laban to secure Rachel's hand in marriage, agreeing to work for another 7 years. This demonstrates negotiation, compromise, and the willingness to adjust to new circumstances in order to achieve a desired outcome. Negotiation is a critical problem-solving skill. Jacob's ability to work out a deal after being wronged shows the importance of remaining flexible and negotiating terms that allow one to achieve long-term goals. Sometimes a solution isn't immediate, and it requires compromise and adapting to changing circumstances. Jacob's response to Laban's deception also emphasizes the importance of perseverance. Even after the initial disappointment, Jacob continues to work diligently and sees his commitment to Rachel through the end. Perseverance is key in problem solving, especially when dealing with setbacks or obstacles. Jacob's ability to endure and keep working toward his goal is a reminder that many problems require sustained effort, and short-term difficulties might lead to long-term rewards. It's crucial to maintain focus and commit even when faced with adversity. Jacob's experience teaches the importance of emotional regulation. Even when faced with betrayal, he channels his energy into achieving his goal rather than reacting impulsively. His patience and ability to control his emotions allow him to make sound decisions in difficult circumstances. Emotional intelligence plays a key role in problem solving. Being able to regulate emotions, especially in times of frustration, helps maintain a clear focus on the end goal and avoid rash decisions that may make the problem worse. Jacob demonstrates how patience, combined with strategic thinking, can help overcome difficult situations. The relationship between Jacob and Laban highlights the imbalance of power. Laban uses his authority to deceive Jacob, which eventually leads to Jacob to challenge Laban's control. This teaches the importance of understanding power dynamics in problem solving. Recognizing when power imbalances are at play in a situation can be essential in navigating conflict. Problem solving often involves understanding how power, control, and influences are distributed in relationships or situations, and using that awareness to make informed decisions. This skill is important, especially when dealing with authority figures or negotiating difficult situations. Genesis 29 is about love, betrayal, and perseverance, and the nature of justice. Jacob's experience with Laban teaches deep lessons about the complexities of relationships, the impact of deception, and the necessity of resilience in the face of adversity. The story challenges us to reflect on how we handle betrayal, negotiation, and emotional struggles, while also teaching valuable lessons about patience, strategic planning, and compromise. In terms of problem solving, this chapter helps us understand the importance of navigating deception and betrayal, maintaining perseverance and emotional control, and recognizing the power dynamics at play in difficult situations. Like Jacob, we can learn to adapt and move forward even when faced with challenges, ultimately working towards our goals despite setbacks. In Genesis 30, it's about Jacob, Rachel, Leah, and their struggle with fertility and familial relationships. The chapter is a testament to the complexities of human nature, the intricacies of relationships, and how individuals respond to challenges. Several concepts can be drawn and applied to problem solving in life. First, the story teaches resilience. Rachel, struggling with infertility, demonstrates deep emotional vulnerability, while Leah, despite her advantage, feels unloved. Their emotional pain leads them to engage in strategies that they believe will solve their problems, such as giving their maidservants to Jacob to bear children on their behalf. While their actions might seem strange or desperate, they show that humans drive to seek solutions even in difficult circumstances. This suggests that in life, when facing adversity, we may need to be adaptable and seek out multiple solutions. Understanding that our first approach may not always work and being open to creative alternatives. Second, this chapter delves into the themes of competition and comparison. Rachel's jealousy towards Leah's ability to bear children teaches a lesson about the dangers of constantly comparing yourself to others. It's a common struggle in life. Genesis 30 reminds us that comparison often breeds discontent. To solve this, we can adopt a mindset that focuses on personal growth and individual achievements rather than always looking at others' success. Another key concept is the importance of patience and timing. The story shows that despite all their efforts and plans, some things are ultimately out of our control. God plays a central role in granting Rachel and Leah children when the time is right. This suggests that sometimes we need to have the patience to let life unfold as it will and trust that things will come together in their own time. This lesson invites us to develop the skill of perseverance, understanding that results might not come immediately, but they are often worth the wait. Finally, this shows the complexity of relationships and the need for communication. Jacob is caught in a web of competing desires and unspoken emotional needs between his wives, which leads to conflict and turmoil. In our own lives, whether in family, work, or friendships, clear and open communication can prevent unnecessary misunderstandings and help us navigate complex dynamics. By reflecting on these lessons, you can learn to tackle problems with creativity and flexibility. Foster personal growth without comparison. Practice patience when facing difficulties and prioritize communication to avoid conflicts. Life's challenges, much like those faced by the characters in Genesis 30, often require a combination of internal strength, emotional intelligence, and a willingness to adapt. Now for battle time with Granny. I believe that the reason much of our younger generations seem to have lost the ability for critical thinking is because they weren't taught the Bible. Whether they went on later to reject or forget religion doesn't really matter. They learned critical thinking, which they will never unlearn. It provides an important foundation for everything they learn afterwards. Why do I think it's so important to start with Genesis when you're studying the Bible, instead of doing devotionals or jumping around and picking out verses to suit your needs? While I think these other methods are worthwhile, I don't think they're very helpful in teaching your brain critical skills. The Bible is a brain book. It is set up to mimic how we learn. While you're enjoying the creative stories, the brain is absorbing important structure. It teaches abstract thinking, comparison, differentiating, weighing values, and consequences. But it also teaches the value of asking questions. But what religion misses on many levels is how the Bible makes you smarter. It teaches the most basic skills to be successful in life. Not only successful in life, but actually how to be happy and satisfied. Many people do not realize that being happy is a learned skill. In Genesis, God seems to be guiding humanity's mental and moral development in a way that mirrors the progression of learning a subject like math, starting with foundational principles, advancing through increasingly complex scenarios. These stories teach us how to think critically, solve problems, navigate ethical dilemmas, and understand our place in the world. In Genesis 1 and 2, God begins by introducing the most fundamental concept of all, creation. The idea of order emerging from chaos, of bringing structure to the universe, is akin to the most basic math concept by numbers or addition. By laying down the foundation of the world, God teaches us the importance of beginnings, structure, and understanding the world as a set of interconnected parts. Each element has a purpose, just as in math. Every number has its place. In Genesis 3, with the fall of humanity, God introduces the concept of decision making and the consequences of choices. Just as in early math, where each operation leads to a specific result, Adam and Eve's choice is to eat the forbidden fruit leads to the unfolding consequence of knowledge, suffering, and separation from God. This is the first lesson in problem solving. Every action has a result, and decisions must be made thoughtfully. Genesis 4 then deepens this lesson, introducing Cain and Abel. Here we learn about jealousy, competition, and the breakdown of relationships. God asked Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast?" A moment that mirrors the development of critical thinking. God is teaching Cain to reflect on his emotions, to analyze his feelings and their root causes, much like a student learning to analyze a math problem step by step. Cain's inability to manage his emotions and jealousy leads to the first murder, showing that emotional intelligence is an essential skill for navigating life's challenges. As we move to Genesis 6 through 9, the story of Noah's Ark reveals the importance of faith, patience, and listening to divine guidance. Noah builds the ark despite the overwhelming evidence of society's disbelief. Much like solving a complex equation where the steps might not be seen immediately or seem logical, but trusting the process yields the correct answer. Noah's obedience demonstrates the necessity of patience, long-term vision, and following through on instructions, which is essential in problem solving, whether in life or in math. Then in Genesis 12 through 17, with Abraham's journey, we see the importance of trusting promises and negotiating with God. When Abraham questions God about the fate of Sodom and Gomorrah, he negotiates, asking God to spare the cities if righteous people are found there. This teaches us that problem solving isn't always about clear yes or no answers. It sometimes requires negotiation, questioning, and thoughtful dialogue to uncover the right path. Abraham's willingness to trust God, even when the path seems unclear, also emphasizes faith in the unseen, which is a critical component of wisdom and learning. You can't always see the answer, but it's there. In Genesis 18 through 19, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah teaches us the need to confront evil and the consequences of immoral actions. This expands on the ethical lessons learned earlier, encouraging us to discern right from wrong and act in accordance with justice. Just as in mathematics, where we learn to reject incorrect solutions, we are taught to avoid paths that lead to harm, to ask hard questions, and to hold ourselves accountable for ethical behavior. Genesis 27 through 29 takes us into the complexities of family dynamics with the story of Jacob, Esau, and the deception surrounding the blessing. Jacob, though a trickster, learns valuable lessons in negotiation and conflict resolution. This period of his life shows that moral development isn't always linear. Mistakes are made, but they lead to growth. We learn that sometimes problems require creative solutions, but we must be cautious of deceit and manipulation. Understanding that the right path involves honesty and integrity. In Genesis 37 through 39, with Joseph's story, the lessons of resilience, forgiveness, and the understanding of God's greater plan unfold. Joseph's ability to rise above his brother's jealousy, his wrongful imprisonment, and his eventual success in Egypt teaches us to view setbacks as opportunities for growth. Just as learning math requires practicing increasingly difficult problems, Joseph's journey is one of deepening wisdom, where each challenge expands his ability to navigate complex situations with grace, learning to forgive and recognize divine purpose in the process. Through these chapters, we see God methodically expanding the complexity of problem solving, from basic structure and creation to the ethical decisions of negotiation and decision making and growth. Genesis provides us with a step-by-step approach to developing critical thinking and moral reasoning. Just as in math, where foundational concepts must be mastered before tackling more difficult equations, God's teachings build on one another, equipping us with the mental and ethical tools necessary to navigate the complexities of life. This is the reason I believe the younger generation seems to have lost the ability for critical thinking. They've been taught that religion is dangerous, and in extremes, it can be. But throwing out the baby with the bathwater isn't the solution. Throwing out the Bible and this feel-good religion, it's the real danger. Now let's get back to the story of Ellen and questions. The days after that conversation with Tom were some of the strangest Ellen had ever experienced. Every moment felt like she was standing on the edge of something she couldn't quite see but could feel. The more she asked, the more her world seemed to shift. The very fabric of reality felt malleable. The lines between what was real and what was not were starting to blur. She had tried to focus on her work, tried to carry on with a routine that had once grounded her, but nothing felt the same. The patients she saw every day, they felt different, almost like strangers. The words she spoke, the advice she gave, it all felt hollow, as if she was acting in a play. She could see her reflection in their eyes, but when she looked in the mirror, she didn't recognize the person staring back at her. She couldn't ignore it any longer. The pull to ask more questions, to go deeper, was stronger than ever. The fear was there too, sitting quietly in the back of her mind. But the hunger for answers drowned it out. After all, wasn't she just trying to understand the truth? One evening, she found herself walking down the familiar streets near her apartment. But tonight, everything felt different. The streetlights flickered as she passed beneath them, and the air felt thick, charged with an energy she couldn't explain. She kept walking, trying to shake the sensation that she was being watched. It was the same feeling she'd had before, the one that told her she wasn't alone in this anymore, the one that told her she had crossed some kind of threshold. She stopped at a quiet church she had passed by many times, but tonight it seemed to call out to her. Something drew her in, something in the air. Something in her own mind was telling her to go inside. The church was empty, dark, and silent. The only light came from the colored windows, casting strange patterns on the floor. She walked down the aisle, each step echoing in the stillness. The silence was so complete that it felt alive, as though it was waiting for something. She reached the altar, and there it was, a book, open, just as if someone had left it there for her to find. She didn't know why, but she felt like this was important. She could feel the weight of it, like a message just waiting to be unlocked. Ellen stood there for a moment, staring at the book. The words seemed to pull her in. their meaning just beyond her grasp. But then she read the first line aloud, almost without thinking. The truth is not something you find, it is something you become. Her voice echoed in the quiet church. She stood still for a moment, unsure of what to do next. What did it mean? She ran her fingers across the pages, reading more of the cryptic words. Hattie's handwriting was unmistakable. It was like she had written this for Ellen. But how could that be? The light reveals more than the truth. It shows you your soul, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Ellen closed the book, her fingers trembling. Her breath came fast. She had been on the verge of something for so long, but now, standing there in that empty church, it felt like she had finally reached the edge. This was it, the moment she had been looking for, the moment when she would finally understand the truth. But was she ready to see it? The air seemed to thicken around her. The stillness of the church suddenly felt oppressive, like something was closing in. She could feel it, the weight of the universe pressing against her chest. She stepped away from the altar, feeling the room shift around her. That was when she heard it, a faint whisper, soft but clear. The light will reveal you, but can you bear to see it? Ellen froze, looking around the church. The whisper felt like it was coming from everywhere and nowhere all at once. She wasn't alone. Not anymore. Her heart raced as the whisper grew louder, echoing through her mind, weaving itself into her thoughts. She stepped back, her mind reeling with fear and wonder. The voice spoke again. You asked for the truth, Ellen. Now you must accept what it reveals. Ellen could feel her pulse pounding in her ears, her vision blurred for a moment. The edges of the church stretching and warping as if the very air around her was bending. The walls seemed to pulse, breathing with her. She felt the ground beneath her feet shift, as though she were standing on the edge of something vast and unknowable. She reached out for the altar, needing something to hold on to, but just as her fingers brushed a stone, a sudden flash of light filled the room. It was bright, blinding, as if the very essence of light itself had broken free from its confinement. The light consumed her, surrounding her, flooding her senses. For a moment, Ellen felt like she was floating, suspended between worlds. The light was everywhere and nowhere. It was warm and cold, and it was all just too much. She could feel the pull, the tugging at her soul, trying to draw her in, trying to reveal the truth in a way that made her heart ache. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the light faded. The room went dark again. But Ellen felt different, changed. She looked around, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Nothing had physically changed. The church was still the same. The air was still heavy. But Ellen felt as if she had seen something deeper than the surface of the world she knew. The truth was no longer something she could seek. It was something she had become part of. She was no longer the observer. She had crossed the line, and now the world was observing her. Later that night, back in her apartment, Ellen couldn't sleep. She sat at her desk, her mind buzzing with what had just happened. The light, the voice, the church, it all felt like a dream, but she knew it wasn't. It was real. Her hands shook as she reached for Hattie's journal again, flipping through the pages. Hattie had written about this feeling, the overwhelming presence of light, the sense of being consumed by it. And Ellen understood now. She had stepped into the unknown, and the truth had shown her a reflection of herself that she wasn't ready for. But it was too late to turn back. The questions had led her here, and now she couldn't stop. She had asked, and the light had answered. But what did it mean? Ellen had crossed a line she can't come back from. The truth has revealed itself to her, and now she must face the consequences. But the deeper she goes, the more she realizes some truth may be too much to bear. That's the end for today. Join me tomorrow for the finale. I'm Meryl, and this is Battleground. Like and share. If you're looking for more Bible chapters, go here. And if you just want Granny's crazy theories, just go here.